Okay, yeah, this is Conejo. I'm taking you. I'm telling you a story when I was in Corcoran SHU in 1989, and it was me, my carnal Huero Smooth, and gangster from Dog Patch, and Cholo from Sanford. Cholo from Sanford wasn't a carnal; he was just a sureño, and but before I start this story, I want to tell you guys, I want to share with you, the reason I tell you these stories is because I'm trying to plant a seed in a lot of youngsters and little girls' heads that you could make one decision in life and it could affect your whole life. You spend the rest of your life in prison, or you spend the rest of your life dead. Like there's a lot of kids messing around with fentanyl that don't even know what they're doing. They take a pill of fentanyl and they OD and they die. So that's why I share these stories with you, because I'm trying to get a message across to you that you gotta always watch your decisions in life, especially when you're having a good time and you don't visualize what can happen in the future. And that's why I share these stories with you. But I'm going to start my story right now. And remember, if any of you want to get a hold of me or
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
all you got to do is put Frank Cornejo and go to JPay Media account and T332, my number, and Frank Cornejo, and you can relate any message to me in my tablet. Okay? Okay, I'm going to start the story. Well, I was in Corcoran SHU, and Huero Smooth, me and Gangster are cellies in the cell, and Huero Smooth and Cholo from Sanford are right next door to us. Well, we get together and we make a batch. You put together your fruit and all that, your fruit so you can make wine, and we save the fruit for like 2 weeks, and we make a batch of wine. We made a batch of wine for the four of us, so we're right next to each other in the corner cells. This is 483 right in 1989, right there in Corcoran in the SHU, and we make a batch of wine, and we drink it and everything, and we're having a good old time, and all of a sudden you hear me and Gangster are looking at TV and we're drinking, and we're talking in between the cells, you know what I mean, on the front of the door, because the doors have holes. The doors in the Corcoran SHU, they have holes, like little holes. A whole door got holes on it, so they can see right in the cell. And we're talking through the holes to next door, and all of a sudden we hear like they're wrestling over there next door. So I tell Huero, I say, Huero, you all right? And he don't answer back to me. And Gangster calls Cholo, you all right? And Cholo says, yeah. And we said, what happened? They don't want to answer. Well, upstairs was Carnal Chino from Girdy Loma, and he's right on top, like maybe 2 cells down on the top, right on the top of the chair. He heard it too, so he hollers first at Gangster, hey, you vatos all right? And hey, Carnal, you all right? And Gangster hollers back, and he says, yeah. You know what I mean? We're straight over here. And then he hollers at Smooth, Huero Smooth. Huero comes to the door and he says, yeah, estamos bien, we're all right. You know what I mean? And well, we were drinking, and they don't want to say nothing, because you got to remember, when you're in the SHU, it's so quiet that you can hear everything. So at that time, Huero Smooth didn't want to say nothing, but Cholo and Huero Smooth got in a fight in the cell. And I guess that the reason they got in a fight in the cell was because one day Cholo went out to medical, and when he came back, Huero Smooth ate a sandwich. He ate his sandwich, because you get a sandwich for lunch, and it's 4 breads and 2 meats inside the sandwich. and I guess Cholo was saving one sandwich to eat it later on. When he came back home after from medical, the sandwich was gone, and he goes, Smooth, hey, what happened to my sandwich? And he goes, hey, I got hungry and I ate it. And he's like, man, what the fuck? And sometimes when you're in the SHU, man, you don't got it, because you back then you could only go $45 draw off store, so you had to make that money, that draw, last you the whole month to the next month, and it was hard to do because you had to stretch it out. So there would be like maybe 1 or 2 weeks that you went without nothing, and no store food at all. So in the SHU it's kind of hard because the food, they don't give you enough over there. So Cholo got mad. So but Cholo's not a carnal. Huero Smooth's a carnal from them. So Cholo got mad, but he just didn't want to do nothing. So that time we got drunk, Cholo let it out, and Cholo beat up Smooth. So when we go to the yard the next day, you got to go out to the yard. You got to remember, when you go to the yard and you walk up to the door. You walk up to the door, and they strip you right in front of the door, you and your celly, and then you go out to the celly port, and they uncuffed you right there in the celly port, and then the door opens to the little yard. They're little cement yards. They're 2 yards. And when everybody was out there, and Huero Smooth comes out and Cholo, they come out together. Well, Huero Smooth got a black eye, and everybody sees his black eye. Well, carnal. And that time, the only carnals that were there was Huero Smooth and Chino from Gary upstairs. You know what I mean? At that time, I wasn't a carnal. Gangster from Dogpatch wasn't even a carnal that time yet. Well, when we go out to the yard, Chino goes up to him and he says, "Hey, what happened? What the hell?" And he's looking at his eye and he says, "Oh no, we were just wrestling and we were wrestling and I hit my eye in the corner. The beds are made out of cement. They're two, and Corcoran SHU is two bunks in the bottom. There's not no bunk in the top, and there's slabs of cement. They're made out of slabs of cement." And he said, "I hit myself in the corner, the slab of the cement in my eye." So we're out there in the yard, and I tell Cholo's my camarada, so I go tell Cholo, "What happened, fool?" And Cholo runs it down to me. He tells me what happened that time when Huero Smooth ate his sandwich, and he goes, "Hey, man, it was one of them times, and I was hungry, fool. We didn't have no food. This fool eats my sandwich." I'm like, man, I got mad. But he thinks he's a carnal, he could eat my sandwich, and I guess it just came out of me, because you know how the alcohol, everything comes out of you when you're drinking alcohol, and I was holding it in. And we started talking about that time, and he just said, quit crying, and I just bam, I hit him, fool. We started throwing blows, and he don't even know how to fight. So I was like, man, fool, I hope they don't make him the bail. So that when you're in the rec yard in Corcoran, you can come in to when you cut your hair and you cut your nails, you got to come in the celly port. And when you come inside the celly port, it's like a rotunda. So when you come in the rotunda to cut your nails, I seen Chino when he said, hey, he told the cop on the top, "Hey, I want to go cut my nails." So he goes, all right. So he opens the door, he goes in, but he actually wanted to cut his nails because he wanted to relate to the next yard, and the next yard is Joe Morgan was there, and Godfather Joe Morgan was there, and Carlos from San Diego, Carlos.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And Nightowl from Nightowl was out there, so Chino wants to go out there and let them know what happened to Smooth. So he goes up, because I know that's what he's doing. So he goes out there to the red cage, and you can see that's how we would communicate with the vatos next door on their side of the wall. So he goes out there and he's telling them, and I hear him when he's telling them. So Cholo tells me, "Fool, he's telling him?" He says, "Yeah." I tell him, "Yeah, fool, but he's just telling him what happened." And Cholo says, "All right, you know what? Cholo says, "All right, I ain't going to even trip." And I said, "No, don't even trip, because I think if Huero wanted to put you out there like that, he would have told him straight out, and you guys got in a fight, and you're done, because you can't, the reglas back then, the rules back then, you can't fight, raise your hand against no carnal. You can't even fight. Back then they had rules. You can't even fight with another inmate in the celda unless you have permission, because they looked at it like you're going against the rules, you're going against the structure, and if you get caught, then we can lose warriors. That's the way the rules were back then. So you couldn't even fight at all. You get in trouble. So he was worried. Well, anyways, we're in the rec cage, and the yard already finished. He goes back out, and Chino comes out, and he asks Huero Smooth. Huero Smooth real quick went up to him and said, "What happened? What Joe saying to him?" He said, "No, I was just telling him that you hit yourself in the eye. I was just clowning you." And he goes, "Why'd you tell him?" And he's like, "Because, fool, you know how they are. If they see you like that, they're going to say, why didn't we say anything?" And then so he goes, all right, all right. So when they're bringing everybody in, when they say yard recall, they bring everybody in, you come in as your cellies, like they call your two cellies to the celly port. You go in there and then you cuff up, strip, and do your little thing and strip, and they search you and they cuff you up and then they take you. Well, that day they did Cholo and Huero Smooth last. So we all come in. We all coming in from the yard, and they did them last. And right when they come and bring us, me and Gangster, we're the second to the last ones. They're putting us in the cells. Well, they're cuffing them up out there in the yard. All of a sudden, the yard goes, da, 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 da. The alarm goes out. So we're like, oh, man, what the hell? The only ones out there is Huero Smooth and Cholo because they brought in the other yard before us. So that's B section and C section. And we're like, so we're waiting right there. And the cop comes, and I see Mendoza, and I come, hey, Mendoza, you want to see all? I said, what happened? He said, man, your buddy next door right here got in a fight with a celly. And I'm like, oh, man, you know what I mean? So we're laughing because we're like, what the hell? Well, later on, they ended up bringing Huero Smooth back. Huero Smooth told the story that as soon as they were coming in, when they're waiting to come in, the cops don't right. They opened the door to celly port. He said that Cholo just took off on him and started hitting him, beating him up in the rotunda, hitting him right there, and they had to spray him and everything. And all Huero Smooth all did is ball up because Cholo was one of them dudes. He had hands, you know what I mean? They call him baby hands of stone, you know what I mean? Well, he had hands, and he balls up right in the corner, and we tell him, well, he don't tell us that, but the cops tell us later on. And I tell him, what happened? He goes, I don't know. We just took off. I guess he probably got paranoid. We thought, I guess he thought we were gonna do something to him. Well, I didn't see Cholo till later on, man. Like maybe I think 7 years or 6 years when I seen Cholo in the Bay, and I happened to see him. We were on the law. I went to the law library, and he tells me the story. He says, man, I couldn't take the chance. Conejo, I said, what? He says, I couldn't take the chance that he comes in and he tries and stab me at nighttime or something because I know the rules. I messed up with the rules, man. I ended up throwing blows with the known carnal from the Mexican mafia. I'm not a carnal, and I don't even got used to be a carnal like that. So I didn't want to be where I'm going to be a victim. So I just made a decision right there and then because even though all you camaradas said is cool, nothing's happening. Even him, he said, don't worry about it. They're not going to say nothing. I couldn't trust him because the way Chino was looking at me, Carnal Chino from Verde Lomas was looking at him. He thought, because he like kind of got on him like, hey, you know the reglas. You better not be fighting the sellers. You know it too, Smooth. You know what I mean? And at that time, Smooth was just barely, you know what I mean? He barely became a carnal también. And he was like, yeah, we ain't doing nothing. And back then, you had a lot of strict rules because they were you got to remember as we were going along back then, the rules are getting enforced and we're growing together because things were changing because of the way they were building all these new prisons and the way they had us housed, because they had us housed in different cells, and then we were at war every time we went out. Like when you went out to your tier, you got to remember when we went out there and Norteños went out with us, or Nuestra Familia went out with us, it was war. So at that time that
you have 60 seconds remaining.
There was nobody in the tier from up north. So we were all camaradas in that time. The top tier, there was Norteño. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you that are hearing me. This is Conejo, and I'm trying to finish off my story of Huero Smooth, Carnal Huero Smooth, when we were in Corcoran in 1989, and I'm gonna go back a couple weeks before the story I was telling you when Cholo took off on him and rushed him because he couldn't take a chance because Cholo was not a carnal, so he couldn't take a chance that Huero Smooth or the carnal is going to have him hit. So he ended up taking off on him before when they were the last ones that were coming in from the yard. You got to remember, at that time, the Department of Corrections built Corcoran specifically to stop all gangs, prison gangs from attacking each other. So they what they did is they would house like one dude, two dudes in a cell would be Norteños. Next dudes would be MM members, two MM members. Next cell would be two Sureños. Next cell will be 2 Nuestra Familia members. Next cell will be 2 BGF, like that, and so on, different chicas, A, B, and you would meet in the yard. So anybody that was your enemies, as soon as you went out, you would get off. There was so much time that we would get off that I would stop by the cell of the dude that I already got in a fight with, like the dude from up north, because this is what they did. They'll say, Conejo, step out. And you come out and you walk to the door and you do your strip dance right in front of the door. They cuff you up, take you to the sally port, and there's 2 yards in Corcoran, 2 cement yards. I don't know if most of you people.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Well, the cement yards ain't bigger than like a garage. Well, anyways, they would put you in one of them, and that's how they would fill them up. So most of the time, when you already got in a fight with somebody, what they did is they will write you a 115, and they would put you 10-day CTQ, which you couldn't come out to the yard in 10 days. And when your 10 days were up, you were going back to the yard with the same dude that you got off on. So out of mutual respect, so we can get some yard time, you would go out there and you would stand at the back of the wall of the yard, and you would wait till the dude come out, and you would tell him, hey homies, let's get our yard, and 15 minutes before we get in, we'll get off. And the cops on the top would tell you, what's up, you guys going to get off right now or no? And he would say, no, we're going to get off in 15 minutes before we come in. So what they would do is this, okay, then we're letting everybody else out, and they would bring other dudes out. And here comes everybody one by one coming. Well, before the yard was over, then that's what would happen. We would get off. Sometimes they would play scandalous moves, and they'll violate the respect, and as soon as somebody got close to them, that was a sureño or a norteño, whatever it was, and it depended who was going to get off. Like when I was going to get off, it was my turn. I would tell the camaradas, hey homies, don't do nothing. I'm going to get off on this fool as soon as 15 minutes are up with the yard. When they say yard recall 15 minutes, that's what they'll do. They'll say, get your shower, 15 minutes, yard recall. So they had a shower in the back of the cell, and that's where you showered at. Well, when they called that, you go in there and you got off with the dude, and the cops back then, they had the blocks. They would shoot out righteous 4 blocks out, boom. And them things hurt because the tower was just right there. It wasn't that high. So going back to Huero Smooth, well, one time me, Huero Smooth, Gangster from Dog Patch, and Cholo, and went out to the yard, and we're out there as 4, and they bring out 4 norteños. Well, it was really 3 norteños and one Nuestra Familia member. So when we went out, the only carnal that was there was Huero Smooth. So when we went out, we were trying to get this dude named Diamond. So as soon as he went out, we were going to get off. So when we're out there, they come, and we tell them, hey, homies, we ain't going to get off until after the yard's over. So he says, yeah, we ain't going to do nothing. So as soon as Diamond came out, we're out there. Well, we get off. Boom, boom, we get off and shit. Well, the dude in the tower, he didn't like that. We told him, hey, because they would get mad. The officers would get mad. They'll say, like, we'll tell them, hey, we're not going to get off till 15 minutes till we come into the yard. So they would be ready, but they had the gun all the time ready in the block. They would always have one guy on the 9mm, or the Mini 14, and the other guy in the block. Well, anyways, when we got off, that time we're getting off, and boom, they hit the block, and one of the blocks hits Huero Smooth on top of the head and busted his head. Boom. And if you ever look at pictures of those two cells in every section got two little yard cages. Well, every section got 2 little yards. And if you look at pictures, because that's all you're going to see pictures, because you can't go there. Well, if you see the pictures, every yard got holes on the bricks, because those holes are from when they shot. That's how many times they shot in those yards. Those holes on the walls is from the Mini 14. Hitting the wall, boom, and taking a big old chunk of cement off the wall. Well, anyways, that time when they shot, they hit Huero Smooth head and busted his head. So we get down, because the next shot they hit with the 9, boom, because Norteño didn't want to get down because he was getting beat up. Boom, they shot and they hit his leg, bam. When we're coming in, the CO that took the shot, he's right there, and I tell him, man, you lucky you up there, man. I told him like that because, yeah, I kind of felt bad. They cut Huero Smooth's head, And he said, what? He said, hey, put Conejo in the cage. And when you coming in from the yard, they got two little cages right there. Well, they put me in there. And when they put me in there, I'm saying, oh, man, so I'm thinking they're going to beat me up. Because back then, the cops weren't playing. They would beat your ass. Well, anyways, when they ran in yard, they pulled me out. And this CO tells me, man, what do you mean that if I was up there? I'm right here now. And we're in the yard now. But when we're in the yard, it's me and 5 other COs. So he says, man, I'll take off the cuffs and we'll go one-on-one. I said, man, you take these cuffs, I'm going to beat your ass. So he says, yeah, take his cuffs off. So as soon as he takes off the cuffs, I take off on him, and me and him, and I'm beating him down. As soon as I beat him down, boom, they all jump me. Bam, bam, they start fucking me up, beating me up and shit. Well, by the time they beat me up and everything, they twisted me all up. I come back in, and as soon as I come in, Huero Smooth tells me, what happened? I said, man, them fools beat me up, fool. And he's like, see, I told you, man, you shouldn't have said nothing. You know how the way they are. So anyways, I come in, and I said, man, I got to lay down. So I wanted to lay down because that's how bad my body hurt that they beat me up with. They had their way with me, put it that way. I'm not gonna lie. Well, at that time, Huero Smooth says, I'm going to get at Joe. And Joe Morgan was in B section. We're in A section. Joe Morgan was in B section at that time. Joe Morgan was there. Chino from Gary Loma, Chino from Gary Lomas was there. And at that time, Chuco from B&E just came down from court. At that time, they had Chuco under suspicion of working with SSU. But a lot of the brothers were making it a big issue because every time he came from court, he was bringing back drugs and kicking everybody down. Where everybody be happy, they wouldn't press the issue, but they knew. And plus, nobody could get close to him because he couldn't have a celly at that time because there was people trying to move in with him to try. He didn't know that, but they were trying to take him out, and they couldn't get close to him. Well, the reason I'm telling this story is because when that happened, I didn't know that back then there was a CO. His name was Richard I think it's Corrosco. He looks white, but he's a Mexican. And at that time, he didn't like what the SEALs were doing when we were having all the gladiator fights, when we were attacking each other. So he was keeping notes on this. Well, later on, I'm in the feds. Later on, I think it was like 94. I hear that they're shutting down all the Corcoran SHU and all that because of the gladiator fights. Well, all of a sudden, I get a visit. I'm in Florence, Colorado, and I get a visit. And it's investigators investigating the Department of Corrections of all the gladiator fights that happened. And one of them times was the time when they jumped me in the yard. So when they're telling me all this, they got video of some of it. You got to remember, when they mess with the video and they take things off, that's what messes up a lot of the videos that were actually filmed for cases, because they're the ones who altered the videos. Well, at that time, you got to remember, at that time I'm in the feds, and man, I was untouchable, man, back then, and there was no way I was going to fucking get in the stand.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They brought that up in a couple other cases that happened that I was involved in right in the SHU, when dudes got stabbed, dudes got hurt real bad, when they killed a couple of dudes, when they killed one of the inmates, Tate Jr. Well, anyways, I told him, no, I don't want no part of this, man. He said, look, we will keep you we'll keep your name under wraps. Nobody will even know that you're coming down to testify. We'll have you under quiet testimony. And I said, no. So they take off. I go back to the yard, and the carnales that were there at that time was Roland Berry, Chavetas, Carnal Chavetas, Willie Bobo was there, Bruiser was there, Carnal Bruiser. And they asked me, what happened? We went to Visita, and that was my family, man. And I said, nah, you know what, in my mind, I said, yeah. And I said, in my mind, I said, I can't lie to these carnales. So I said, nah, fool, it wasn't my family came visit me. And he go, what was it about? And I told him, I said, look, fool, back in Corcoran SHU, we're going to guerra with the norteños all the time and the black dudes. Sometimes we went to war with the ABs for like 6 months for a while, too. Well, anyways, they were coming down because they're investigating all them dudes in court and shit. And this dude wanted me to, if I wanted to be one of the witnesses to go down in court when they jumped on me, the cops. And when Huero Smooth got hit in the head, busted his head. And they asked, what'd you tell him? I said, no. And they tell him, no, fool, go. We want you to go. And
you have 60 seconds remaining.
I'm not going to go get in the stand. He goes, bro, we want you to go so you can relate the message to us to the carnales in the state, fool. And I'm like, all right. Well, he left me his card. He told me to get a hold of him, and that's where it stayed at.